I see. Excellent. So yeah, like I was saying, the platform really started as a way of really exploring what's possible for NFTs. Why is what we've been given the only thing that's been done with NFTs? And that's attaching an image or, you know, some digital file, a single digital file to a token. And really, couldn't we do more than that? And that's sort of a brief overview of where we've come from. Like I said, that was about a year ago that we started exploring and coming up with what I hope is something interesting and exciting for the community, because that's the other thread that runs through everything. We're in the process of incorporating as a cooperative in the UK, and so our legal structure will be decentralized. It will be a member-owned cooperative in real-world legal terms, as well as a DAO in crypto legal terms. I'm going to introduce you to Sergio Rivera, who is here and has been an integral key part in pulling all of the tech stack together to run through some of the things that we have been able to pull together to push NFTs beyond just a single digital file attached to a token. And he has to leave early, so I'm going to let him go first, and then we can circle back around and talk more about possibilities.
Okay, all right. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for attending. I'll be sharing my screen to get the slides going, and yeah. Okay, you should be able to see it now. So I will be doing a quick introduction to the technical aspects of the implementation of our technology and the things that we've been developing at the platform. But before we do that, I think it's worth defining some core ideas. So within the decentralized application that we call the platform, we provide a user interface designed to facilitate in-app or in-magazine purchases of NFTs, where each individual publication has its own set of smart contracts, allowing artists to define their own revenue models. The NFTs being pieces of art, articles, or digital assets. So what Sparrow was saying of going beyond the established norm of just, well, piece of art is an image, but it really isn't. There's much more to it. So with this, we introduce the concept of the publication. And the publication in the platform is a streamlined front end where NFTs, including their context, can be purchased. And publications can take a variety of formats like magazine layouts or even have their own custom views. So there is no set standard enforced. And once a publication is created, contributors can manage the revenue model using individually deployed wallet contracts that allow them to share profits and receive artist royalties. Our aim here is to combine content with marketplace, and I believe our technology allows us to do just that. So we're going to explore the different components that individually compose the platform so that we can get into the details of the general architecture later on. To begin with, our smart contracts are deployed within the POM network. POM is an Ethereum sidechain optimized to benefit both creators and artists whose primary objective is to produce NFTs. You can think of our smart contracts as the infrastructure governing the ownership and revenue share of the art that's hosted in the platform. Now, as everyone is, we're wary of the high transaction fees that come with Ethereum. Therefore, we decided very early on to move to a blockchain where fees were negligible, while also allowing for an ecosystem that rewards participants in the form of POM tokens. So this solves the infrastructure needs for buying and selling the tokens. But you may be wondering, what is it exactly with the contents of the NFTs are going to be stored? And for that, we're using Arweave, which is owned and operated by the community just like us. And you can think of it as a huge collective hard drive that protects data with immutable transactions, preserving its history and preventing others from overwriting it. On top of Arweave lives the PermaWeb, which is a global community-owned web that anyone can contribute to or get paid to maintain. A very good analogy often used by the Arweave developers is how just as the first web connected people over vast distances, the PermaWeb connects people over extremely long periods of time. It's a new type of storage that backs data with sustainable and perpetual endowments, allowing users and developers to truly store data forever on chain. We purposely decided not to use services like PFS, as we wanted to ensure the perpetuity of our content by design, and Arweave allows us to do just that. Now, OX Splits is an intelligent solution for sharing revenue in multi-collaborator projects. Most of the art, and especially what we want to preserve, which is the context of the art, is almost in all cases created by a group. And therefore, we needed a solution that can enable automatic revenue sharing for both primary sales as well as artist royalties. It's an open source solution that appears to be well documented, and I think it clearly satisfies our needs, and since now it's been a good solution. So with all these components, let's dive into how each of them operates in relation to the others. And we'll do it with an example of a publication creating and selling an edition of a piece of content. Our nature is open source, so what better place to start than forking a GitHub repository? We have created a set of smart contracts that publications can freely borrow and perhaps modify to ensure their foundation from the start. Publication is created in the front end of the platform, which deploys a set of smart contracts to the Palm blockchain. These are later interfaced by the creation of an edition, but creating a token is a bit more involved than a simple contract call. Arweave, being the perpetual endowment solution that we use for storage, is consumed by the front end via a custom library that we wrote for easy deployment of data into the network. This process takes around 5 to 10 minutes to complete, which is the reason why we host our own version of the Arweave blockchain, allowing for quick previews and testnet deployments, being completely open for developers and hobbyists to use with no charge or restriction. So once an edition is created and its contents deployed into Arweave, the publication can set their edition for sale via the smart contracts, deploying a split that allows for the definition of different percentages of contribution, which are translated into automatic payments every time the content is sold in the platform or somewhere else. And these are the various components that we are actively working towards open sourcing for everyone to use and modify, everything that is highlighted by the blue square. So the smart contracts and the JavaScript SDK are somewhat easy to distribute and collaborate in their development, but the minting flow is what is taking more of our attention at the moment, since it requires the creation of custom UI libraries that we will open source both in code and in Figma-based designs. So as I said, the minting flow is a priority for us, since it's the feature that we will release in our next sprint, and any help related to UI, UX, or even code is most welcomed. So I'd like to finish just by showing an example of a publication that released its latest edition on the platform. Quien Te Manda is a freely accessible digital asset / Web3 book created by Editorial Ferragosto, which is part of the team, as publications are members of the DAO. But I think the DAO should probably be a topic for another day. So thank you for listening. Make sure to visit the platform.studio to read the novel and find a place where you can publish your next piece of art. Not sure if Sparrow wants to continue perhaps showcasing some of the designs we have for our upcoming features, such as the minting flow. But yeah, you'll have to excuse me since I've got a lecture to attend now. So thanks, everyone.
That was awesome. Thank you, Sergio. So that's a whistle-stop tour and a actually really in-depth look at the internal guts of the platform and how we have not just taken on board building our own open source tools, but also using open source tools that were available. We couldn't use, for example, OX splits natively because it's their front end only supports currently Ethereum and Matic as blockchains. They don't yet support the Palm network. So like Sergio said, we forked their code from their repo because it's open source, and deployed those contracts ourselves to Palm. What that means now is that anyone on Palm can use OX splits. And to me, that's really the power of open source tooling. And that's my ultimate hope with the tools that we provide for the platform, is that people will take them and mold them into what they want to do. As part of the work that we're currently doing, we're exploring ways of syndicating content so that artists can get the benefit of their own contracts, like the provenance and the flexibility to do custom things in a particular contract, along with the power of aggregating that contract with others into a marketplace. And so for us, it really is a case of allowing artists to truly execute their vision and have something very custom and unique and exactly what they want to do, rather than have artists try and fit in to the constraints of existing platforms, without then losing the visibility that you get from a centralized platform that aggregates everyone's artwork together. One of the other next steps that we're starting to explore is a project proposed by an artist and a friend of mine, Angie Taylor, which is a way of syndicating, effectively aggregating individual content from multiple artists and allowing someone who comes to the platform to effectively curate their own marketplace. So you would be able to follow Angie or another artist, or you would be able to follow a topic, kind of like Tumblr, only the front end is actually a marketplace where you can read the content, you can see the content, but in one click you can also purchase that content. And that, to me, gives art a better positioning. It gives art the place that it deserves. As an artist myself, unlike some of the other marketplaces that treat all NFTs as if they were trading cards. So we want people to experience the art, learn about the art, have an essay or curatorial notes attached to the art, and that then stays with that artwork in perpetuity, because all of that is a part of the NFT. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I can see that some other members of the platform team are here. One of them there is Ishmael, and he's actually the publisher of the book that we released as our MVP. And he has a lovely vision around what NFT publishing can be, and how it is, and Judy's book demonstrates, more than just attaching a PDF or an EPUB to a token. It's more than just having the token gate access to the content, because that was fundamentally against this openness that we wanted to portray. It was, we want everybody to read the book, even without purchasing it, because ultimately that goes back to one of the fundamental tenets of NFTs and artworks. Everyone can see the artwork, but certain people can own it. And right-click saving doesn't equate to ownership. And we think that that's a really powerful paradigm around NFTs, and taking that next step to publishing and books, and thinking about building a completely open internet library of NFT books that anyone from around the world can go and read. I guess maybe Ishmael, you want to talk a little bit about Judy's book. It's published first in Spanish. Again, trying to break that paradigm of English dominance in the internet. So it was really important to us that our first NFT was not in English.
Hi. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present this book. I was trying to, we are in the Historical NFT Festival in Barcelona right now. And when I was talking to people about this NFT book, I'm not sure people were really understanding how crucial it is for digital publishing. But the whole idea, I remember the first meetings with Sparrow and the platform people, when I, when I said, there are some people publishing what they call NFT books, which is only the token for the cover, and they will give you access, like an exclusive access to the content. And I thought that was only underlining the worst aspects of ownership, but there was nothing artistic or interesting for me as a publisher. I understand, I come from digital publishing. I've been working in digital publishing for 15 years, something like that. And I know that's, what moves the whole industry. Just you pay for something, you get access to the content. But I wasn't happy about, that, that's something that I was so familiar with when it came to doing these NFT books. I wanted, the transparency thing, doing the NFT of something that was the whole thing. When you buy a book, you don't buy the cover that gives you access to the content. You buy the whole thing, the literary content. It was because NFT books, the way they were being published or marketed, it was like the literary content was like an afterthought, It wasn't the actual thing. It was just you buy the cover. And I understand where that's coming from, because it was a artistic work focused on the art, but not on the literary content, poetry, short stories, novels. And it took us a long time. We've been working on that NFT book to have the smart contract and everything, and launched for like 18 months, I think. And during those months, whenever I told people what it was about, and when I remember when I was thinking, because I have typical pay the bills job, and then Ferragosto, which is the print that published this book with the platform. And when I tell people in digital publishing that I'm going to give free access to the book, they think I'm stupid. They don't understand what but you can't stop people from reading. And people are going to read it no matter what. People still have libraries. People have free access to many works. And you give people the opportunity to collect the book, which is actually just letting people contribute to a cultural project they believe in. It's like being a patron. That's something like that. So if you explain it like that, people will understand it. But it was very important for us that the token was the whole thing, because it's a dialogue, which is a very data concept. The dialogue between the artist, the crypto artist, which was Mojarra Gonzalez, and the writer, and then the UX designer and the publisher. It was a very rich dialogue, and it wasn't just like, for example, like I said, not just the cover. And I will give you access to this, and we'll send you with a link a PDF. We want people to have full access to the whole work, so they can actually participate in developing this new. For me, it's like a new frontier for digital publishing, and it's going to help writers, especially from poets, short story writers, who are completely out of the mainstream in publishing, to have access to a new dialogue with artists from a completely different environment and create new works and have access to new, even just maybe even new sources of income too, of course. Because I remember the second NFT book that we're working on is by a short story writer, American one, and she's called Lara Early. And she has these amazing short stories. And I remember when I asked her, okay, so you have these incredible short stories. What were the publishers telling you when you were sending your manuscript? They said, we love them. Come back when you have a novel. So if you are a short story writer or a poet, they know, the mainstream is somewhere else. The money is somewhere else. They're not interested. So what if we create a new just place where those art authors can create new works of art in an amazing dialogue with artists from the crypto artists, and maybe we can help them reach new audiences and a new public. It's been very difficult to convince people of how important this is. I think we're getting there, thanks to the platform, especially.
Thank you, Ishmael. No, it's really inspiring, and I think it again goes back to that expanding boundaries, right? NFTs were seen as visual art, and we're now pushing that further into other kinds of arts. Writing is an art, poetry is an art, and there's no limitations except the ones that we impose on ourselves. So Charles asked in the chat if there's a relation to the invisible economy, which is another project that I've been working on. A lot of the themes around the platform are very similar to the invisible economy, in that it's a recognition that nobody really creates in a vacuum. Nobody creates something completely on their own. And so the revenue splits are important in recognizing that there are multiple people contributing to this creation, to this artwork. And that definitely comes from data and the data community and the community ownership. The same with being a cooperative, right? We knew that we had to be a collective. Hi, Lenora. We knew we had to be a collective. We knew that we had to do things differently. So there isn't a set of founders at the platform that are going to take an equity share. It is that principle, the 7 principles of cooperatives. We're not looking for an exit. We're not there to cash out. We really have been designing this for longevity and to outlast me, outlast anyone who's been working here. And that's reflected in the technologies that we've chosen. That's reflected in all of the designs and structures that we've been putting into place. I think Miawi had a hand up before, so maybe we can start a discussion, right? Which is another fundamental thing from data is conversation. Everything comes from conversation. And the evolution of the platform from here to whatever it evolves to in the future is going to be a conversation. It's not us dictating what artists are going to do. It's going to be partnering and working with artists to enable them to do what they want to do. So yeah, Miawi.
GM, are you able to hear me properly?
Yes.
Okay, just checking because my Linux acts up a lot. So when you were talking about the platform being similar to Tumblr, that brought back a lot of memories from my teenage years, which was, of course, just a couple of years ago. I mean, not so long. But anyway, I still use Tumblr from time to time. And when I thought about how we can have it in a Web3 way, that also made me think that what about Lens protocol and what it's doing? Can we have something that's with already existing social graph and the platform together? Because I mean, I not to be like being on the side of the Lens, but I really like being on the Orb and the Lenster and the other application and watching like how artists and others are posting like, and my timeline over there is just mixtapes, and which is really beautiful. So yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking, just thinking out loud. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, interoperability is also key in blockchain in general. I think, you know, NFTs wouldn't be NFTs if they weren't platform agnostic, if they weren't interoperable, if you couldn't see them everywhere. And so having things that work together is crucial. I don't know enough about Lens to imagine how we could hook into that ecosystem. But if there are some easy wins that, you know, will make that possible, then it's definitely worth exploring. The broader the base, the better for everyone, I think. So were there any other questions? If not, then I think we can talk a bit about the DAO and the collective and what we're doing there, because I think that's also a fundamental part of the NFT community.
Sparrow, I have just one question while we're still here, although where you want to go is very fascinating. We should get there fast, so feel free to bet this one to touch if necessary. But one of the points which is fascinating to consider in this response also to Miao is there's interoperability at many levels. And I wonder what you think about cultural interoperability, especially as it applies to situations of kind of generative conflict, in the sense that one person's aesthetic is not another person's aesthetic, and they're really not interoperable. And yet, through dialogue and some of the processes and data and these kinds of things, there is the possibility for the lack of interoperability to breed something really new and interesting and unexpected at the level of culture. And that's kind of fascinating to me. And I wonder if you might just riff a bit more on interoperability as a way into thinking about the DAO and some of your structures.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point, right? Because the last thing that we want really is for people to get into a bubble and then just see what's in that bubble, because none of us actually grow if we stay in that bubble. Being exposed to things that you wouldn't normally see, which is one of the reasons why, you know, at the moment, an artist could take our contracts, which includes a sales contract, spin that up, have their own website and their own marketplace. But that's in effect a bubble, right? It means that you're just there and you're only seeing that one artist or that one set of works. And I do really feel like it's important for us to see things that we wouldn't normally see. It's important for us to see things that might shock us. It's important for us to be surprised sometimes when you're browsing or looking and you come across something and you go, how did I not know that this existed, right? And that's the kind of feeling that I'm hoping we can achieve with this direction that we're going in for the platform. obviously every publisher can do what they want, and they can curate the selection of NFTs. So you can think of the platform as a collection of collections, right? And each collection is individually curated, but then at the supra level, you can get all of them together in one experience based on, you know, the way that you explore the platform. Did that answer your question, or did you want something a little bit more cultural?
No, I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that. And a lot of what you've been saying reminds me of this notion that art is such a useful process to pull us deeply into the embodied or material aspects of our being here. And so I begin as a painter and I use the oil paints I buy from the store, and off I go. And it's good. I can do really an incredible amount just with that. But then like I become fascinated by hue and saturation. And I want to learn a little bit more about the history of dyes and where the stuff comes from. And as I am pulled into my own process by like the art that I'm doing, I then begin to mix my own paints, or I begin to make my own dyes, because I need a very particular shade or something that is unique. I need a blue that is not on the damn shelf, you know, and that's when I fork the code and I go and, you know, make my own painting. And it becomes like less interoperable, and yet through the honest and sincere expression of the particular, the door to the universal is opened without it being dogmatic or impositional. And it's just a fascinating feature of art that like we start at the general and we come to the particular, and that journey to the particular, especially if it moves through the ego, can then open into like universal spaces without us being like, oh, don't you know my work is universal, you know? And that's fascinating. Yeah.
I would add to that, you know, even without needing a particular color, so I mix my own encaustic wax, which even if I'm trying to replicate a color that I can buy off the shelf, it's a worthwhile process, just because the smells and the tactile sensations and the grinding of the pigment and the mixing, and it's a lovely process, and doing it is worthwhile regardless of whether you need to do it or not. It's that experience that the sensual, as you said, it's really embodied, right? It's that sensual experience of working with the materials that then create the art. And I can't say enough about that, really, because it is one of the things that I enjoy the most about being an artist. Right, Harper has her hand up. Yes.
Hi, nice to see you again. Just a question about curation, kind of going backwards, but would the marketplace as a whole have any like centralized curation, or would it really be kind of a choose your own adventure experience as you're going through the platform?
So at the moment, there will be some high level curation, because we would have to obviously identify which contracts to pull in and include. So in that respect, it would be curated, but individual NFTs, not so much. I think it really, you know, so I think it really is up to the individual to choose. And so every person who comes and explores the platform becomes a curator. And I think that there is some education in that, visual education, as well as curatorial education, that people will just learn naturally by doing, rather than it being didactic.
Makes sense, thanks.
We do so I say that we do have an internal publication in mind, and it's something that Karen is working on. And that's at the moment, the concept is we will have different themes that we curate, and we will work with artists to create the NFTs and then feature them in that publication. So in some ways we will have our own curation with that publication, but it will just be one publication amongst the many. And the publications can be literally anything. They can be an archive of, you know, previously created artifacts. They can be an archive of cultural artifacts, including languages that are dying out. If we had recordings of those, we could pull them together into a cultural archive and have that be one of the publications on the platform. There really are more use cases for this than I can ever imagine, which is the exciting part. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit then. I'll switch gears and go into what I was saying before about the importance of this being community owned, the importance of this being a DAO, and how that really reflects for me the very early days of crypto art and the foundation for me about why crypto art was important. There was a fairly small community of artists in the early days of crypto art. And instead of it being similar to the competition that you find in the traditional art world, where people are, I don't want to say hoarding, but gatekeeping, this early community of artists were helping each other and onboarding new artists and saying, hey, look, I've found this great thing, come and do this with me. And the collaborations that came out of that are amazing. And it really opened my eyes coming from traditional art into digital art, that you could collaborate, and you could collaborate easily, and you could collaborate and produce something that you would have never been able to do on your own. And so just taking that as the template and following that message through into the basic infrastructure of the platform. So OX splits and Arweave and shared contracts and publications that had multiple people, not just a single artist, was super important to sort of embed into everything else that gets built then on top of the platform. Having it be a cooperative has been an amazing journey, because what it will allow us to do is have, in legal terms that the whole rest of the world understands, a mirror of our processes, like the way we will vote and how decisions get made and how funds get allocated. All of those DAO-like processes will be reflected in our articles of our rules of incorporation for the cooperative. And so it really was a case of marrying what we're doing on blockchain with what the normal world, the outside blockchain world can understand. Unfortunately, the Cooperatives UK here, we went through an accelerator program with them, and they were really excited about how these two worlds can partner and work together. And we're hoping that once we have the model rules in place, they can then become a template for other cooperatives that want to do something similar and have, secure online voting via, votes on chain, and really have the best that blockchain can provide without having a lot of the downsides that we've seen with token weighted voting so far. So our voting is going to be by a soul-bound NFT. And so when someone becomes a member, they register a wallet, they will get a soul-bound NFT, and that will be their one vote, because in cooperatives, you have one member, one vote. And that to me means that the platform will be much more democratic than just having someone with a lot of money come in and buy lots of tokens, and hence they get lots of governance power. For me, that was always problematic with the DAOs that we've seen so far. The fact that someone could buy votes just never made any sense to me. But yeah, to me, it's been a real journey, because it's been creating a platform and tools for artists, but it's also been creating this nascent structure of how a collective of people can do something in the Web3 space and achieve something together, which also goes back to data.
So Tabia has asked if the DAO is operational yet, and if so, where?
It isn't just yet, because it will be on Palm, and Palm is doing a very similar DAO kind of structure for what's called the Palm Creator Collective. And when that's in place, then that will be in place for us. So that's looking like it will be first quarter next year. We've actually forked a lot of processes from MakerDAO, their proposal process in particular. And so once again, we've been taking the best that we can find that already exists, not reinventing the wheel, and making sure that what we do is sustainable. And that means where we don't have to build something custom, we won't. If something already exists, there's no need for us to do something custom, which then may not exist in 10 years' time. Yeah.
Another question on that front, Sparrow, is it's fascinating to see the intersection of the way Philip Sheldrake, another ex-United Kingdom resident, describes it, is the intersection of legal, technical, and social codes are required for truly holistic or generative systems, whether that's applied to identity, art, or various other things. And the intersection of cooperative laws, which have been around since the Rochdale Principles, Kia talks about this often in the DAO Guild from the 19th century, and before that, with the ability to represent them well in digital environments, is fascinating. And one of the things which is really interesting to me here, given what you've said about token-weighted voting and the ability to buy votes, is that even with a soul-bound NFT, if members in the cooperative know one another, there is the possibility perhaps of community recovery, right? Based on like high bandwidth, authentic communication channels is the technical way that Alec puts it in that soulbound paper. Everybody got focused on the soulbound thing. Nobody was like access to high bandwidth, authentic communication channels, which is what for me is so fascinating about that. So are you thinking about that, you know, like what happens when a member loses their wallets? And how do you, as a cooperative, cooperate to ensure that that kind of edge case is solved or, you know, held?
Yeah, no, it is a plane of opportunity, I think, right? Because it's something that happens. Either you lose the access or it gets compromised or something happens. So you know that it's an eventuality, and it is something that we need to have in the code so that an NFT that can vote can be revoked in case that happens. And then a new one can be reissued to the actual member who is participating, right? And so again, that does go back to, in cooperatives, you have to renew your membership once a year, right? So once you have that NFT, it's in your wallet forever, but your membership your membership commitment needs to be renewed once a year. And we're looking at ways to make that into a really nice ritual, because I think that renewal is really important. That renewal of commitment is really important. And I think that's how organizations over time stay together, is members will come, members will go, and that's a fact of life. It's not going to be the same people all the time. But if you can put the processes in place that allow for it to evolve in the way that the participants want it to evolve, then it has a chance at long lasting. It has a chance at lasting as long as there's somebody interested, right? It can evolve into what the actual participants want it to be. And I can't think of anything more democratic than that. And I guess, I mean, Charles is also a part of the platform. I know we have a few minutes left. I didn't know, Charles, if you wanted to say something as well, since everybody else has had a chance.
Hey everyone, thank you. I'm not sure what in particular to say other than Sarah rocks, Sergio rocks, Ishmael, Karim, I mean everyone in the crew. And no, I mean nothing particular. I mean we've literally had our hands in the soil in terms of the governments, the stakeholders, being very clear and precise and going through, you know, the sort of boilerplate, and updating it also for the digital era and things like that. So we could pick up on that if you like, but I don't know. I'm just delighted to be here and immersed in all of it and us.
Very cool. Yes. So, I mean, we've spent weeks going through, as Charles intimated, this boilerplate template of rules for a multi-stakeholder cooperative, and going through them one by one, really, really painful, as Charles can probably agree. But getting that right, getting that structure right, and making sure that it is accurate and it does reflect what it is that we're doing, because those are going to be submitted to the FSA here in the UK. Because in the UK, cooperative societies are governed by the FSA rather than by Companies House. And so we also have that as an opportunity to work with the FSA, because they're the governing body that's overseeing our cooperative, to ensure or try to ensure that whatever rules they come up with around crypto NFTs and things that are directly related to us are sensible, right? Regulation is coming. We need regulation for certainty, but we want to have clear and sensible regulation. And that's only going to come from the people who actually understand it, not from somebody who doesn't.
Just to quickly add, I think to your comment about the pain or the struggle of going through, I think it's more tedium. I mean, that's a kind of pain, but just like our collective attention, keeping that actually somehow coherent together and carrying it forward and literally like churning through. I think that was the kind of the pain, just to be a little more specific. It was tedium, collective tedium. Yeah.
And surprisingly, there aren't a lot of people who are really interested in the nuts and bolts of governance. But we got there in the end. We just finished going through the final edits this last Tuesday. So. And
a big shout out to Karen here, who really was a big support in keeping that coherence and carrying it forward.
Yes, yes. Again, it's a collective effort. It's not just one person. It really took all of us to achieve what we have achieved. And what we've done, if anyone had been missing, we would not have done what we had done. Okay, let me look. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll wrap up now. Ah, we see the lake. That's what we've been waiting for, Charles. So yeah, I'll wrap up just by saying, if there's any ideas that you would like to explore, if there's anything that you think you can't do on other platforms that you would like to do as an artist, as a creator, reach out, let us know, because as I said in the very beginning, what the platform becomes is what the community wants it to become.
There we go. Thank you so much, dear Sparrow and the whole team. It's a delight to have you and to hear of the roots from which this grows and the ways it may branch based on people's use, people's interests, people's organic curiosity. And I think that the work that you have done over many, many years, and specifically this manifestation of it, continues to inspire a lot of us. And it is with genuine gratitude that we continue to have you back and hear about the sometimes tedious, always fascinating places that you have been pushing forward the state of the art, whether that's, in small town UK cooperative history or on the World Wide Web and in conversation with so many different people. It really is one of the shining examples of how the Delta dawns on more and more people, to go back to Ben's initial and very beautiful metaphor for us. So we will have one more of these sessions next Friday, and everybody is, of course, welcome there again. I will say that this was the high point. So come back if you like. We'll be going through some of the kernel sort of services tools as another instantiation of this kind of thinking. But it really represents a collective oeuvre which is constantly in conversation with itself. And it's truly just a wonder to see how the years unfold and how so many of the initial ideas find themselves reimagined and revivified over and over again in different contexts. So thank you very much, truly. It's always a pleasure.
It's
If you
been
have
an
any further
honor.
questions. Wonderful. If you have any further questions, there's always the Guild's Culture channel. And based on a recommendation from Meowie, we will end with a particular song. Thank you so much.